knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with? That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're Oreo cookie. White in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro. I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I will slap you.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson, moving right along. By now, folks, you've heard of what's happening over in Egypt. This is from Reuters. Islamic protests descended into a bloodbath across Egypt on Friday, with around 50 killed in Cairo alone on a day of rage called by followers of ousted President Mohamed Morsi to denounce a crackdown by the army-backed government. What is going on in Egypt? Why is this happening? What, if anything, America should be doing about it? I have with me my friend, and I'm glad Walid Shoebat is my friend. Walid Shoebat is with me. He's been with us several times before. He's back. Author, speaker, and former Muslim terrorist. He is the head of the Walid Shoebat Foundation, and we're going to tell you how to get to his foundation and support it. His brand new book is called The Case for Islamophobia, Jihad by the Word, America's Final Warning. You have been warned, America. Walid, good morning, sir, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Jesse. How are you?
All is well. Thank you for being back on with us. I absolutely appreciate it. So much to cover here. How do you explain exactly what is happening in Egypt right now? What is going on?
I mean, it's easy to explain it if you have experienced and watched for years the Hamas fiasco in the Palestinian arena. Gaza lobbing rockets at Israel responding death toll. The media focuses on the death toll. It's exactly what's going on in Egypt. And you have the first initial activism that happened in Rab'a al-Adawiyya Mosque, in which you watched the Western media and you saw high death toll, 270-something, civilians killed and so on and so forth. The West focuses on the death toll, on the victims, and the victimhood of the Muslim Brotherhood is in full force. But when you look at the facts on the ground, what you find is very typical to the case of Muhammad al-Dura, if you recall that, or Pallywood on steroids, in which the truth of the matter. In fact, I posted even a video which YouTube removed. I can send you the link in which it shows the truth, even in those demonstrations, so-called peaceful demonstrations, in which the Muslim Brotherhood will occupy a neighborhood. The neighborhood is now in terror. They just can't wait for the military to come clean this mess because they can't get out of their houses. They're being subjugated to searches. And the neighborhood now all of a sudden belongs to the Muslim Brotherhood, as if there's no government, there's no security forces to clean this kind of mess. And they have several operatives within the group that have machine guns, AK-47s. You could see the machine guns firing at the security forces from the crowd. You have snipers on the mosque, around the surrounding buildings in the mosque, sniping and killing their own people.
Wow.
In which even in that specific area, 8 operatives were caught by the security forces. I have videos on my blog, videos clearly. You can see operatives on those mosque rooftops shooting their own people, killing Muslim Brotherhood demonstrators. And so you create this havoc. The security forces come. In fact, even in the Arabic language, I translated it to the English. It says, we don't want any bloodshed. We want these demonstrations to end. Let the women and children leave. You can exit out of the University Street in safety. We will not prosecute you. We'll go after you. And then all hell breaks loose because you can hear the bullets coming from the crowd. In fact, there's a video showing the operatives from the Muslim Brotherhood shooting at the security forces. You can see the security forces hit, injured, everything else, and they have to respond and shoot against the crowd. It is very typical of Rules of Engagement movie. If you've ever seen that movie, every American should watch it. The Rules of Engagement.
Yes.
It's the typical. It is exactly what went on. In fact, even making that movie was difficult. It had to be privately funded to show the truth. So the Western media, then you turn on your TV as a typical American, you watch the news and you see, 200 and something killed in Egypt, peaceful demonstrators are being killed, and no one really focuses on the victimology expertise of the Islamists, that they love to do this kind of thing.
Wow.
So they will huddle in mosques. In fact, in one video, you could see the fire in the mosque started from the people inside the mosque. Security forces surround the mosque. They want to bring all these terrorists outside of the mosque so people can go worship in the mosque. And, people have a freedom to go worship in the mosque. So they're really occupying the mosque. They can't occupy the mosque. Security forces have to come and do something about this. And then they start the fire. And they create all the havoc. They shoot at the security services. You can see carloads being confiscated with guns, AK-47s, tons of ammunition, caches, Molotov cocktails, knives, machetes. These are not peaceful demonstrations. This went on in Cairo, in Helwan, in Alexandria, in Matruh, in Fayoum, in Suez Governator, in Qulaybiyya, in Buhaira, in Kafr al-Sheikh, Bani Suef. You don't know all these locations, but in every one of those locations, that's the kind of thing was going on, including attacks by the Muslim Brotherhood against government buildings, against police departments, against fire departments. Even the Red Crescent set aflame, so they can stop the fire department from helping rescuing people, so they can create havoc. Terrorism thrives on havoc. It is the angel of destruction, if you will.
I also read that Christian churches over there are being firebombed as well.
Yeah, 16, 17 churches. One of them was the oldest church in the history of Egypt, in 400 AD, burned. No one's talking about these things in detail in the Western media. What we see in Egypt is the fulfilling of Isaiah chapter 19. And when we see that, and you're a pastor, you're familiar with those verses, look at the first verse. The Lord comes riding in a swift cloud and is coming into Egypt. That has something to do with Christ's return. And then you look at verse 2 and 3 and 4, and what do you see? You see that Egyptian will fight against Egyptian, neighborhood against neighborhood, brother against brother, and you see these clashes. I have tons of video, if you like. Spend a day with me, show you. You could see neighborhood against neighborhood right across the street from each other, shooting at each other, killing each other. It is a mass hysteria that have hit the entire country of Egypt, exactly as what the Bible foretold. And I was on the media a year ago warning of this. Yeah. This is going to happen. I was warning about it during the Arab Spring, when everybody was so happy that the Arab Spring, down with Hosni Mubarak, he's the bad guy, he's a dictator. I'm going, wait a minute, Hosni Mubarak is no dictator. He's prosecuting the terrorists. He's an ally. You threw him under the bus. Now the Egyptian people are facing what the Israelis faced when terrorism ran amok. And now the military has to deal with this whole thing. Sisi is the hero of many Egyptians. And of course, Sisi is being looked down upon by our media, our government, which tells us there's something wrong with the way we're doing things in this country.
Amazing stuff. Let me just ask, I want to go back to something you said. You said YouTube removed your video. When I come back, I just want to quickly understand why. Why would they want to remove your video? It's just a website that carry these videos. Let me take a quick break, Walid. We'll come back, and I want to know if America should get involved in this. If so, in what manner? Back in a moment. Okay, folks, welcome back. Talking to my friend Walid Shoebat about what's happening in Israel. Walid, because of time, just tell us, why did YouTube, and I do want you to send me a link as well. We're going to link the folks over to you. Why did YouTube remove these videos, or this video?
Not only these videos, YouTube always removes our videos. In Arabic language, they keep them. Once we translate it to English, they remove them, just for simply harassment. There's no, and the excuse would be it's violent content. Well, wait a minute. All the other violent content, including beheadings, raping, and all these things, they have in the Arabic language. None of them is ever deleted. And in fact, I have reported to YouTube. In fact, I had an entire litany of people report to YouTube bomb-making videos, how to make bombs at home. Very, very dangerous stuff. And YouTube refused ever to remove those videos. It took hell. We had to finally contact the Australian government, to contact all kinds of agencies to remove some of those videos. But it's very, very difficult. YouTube is very liberal. It's very pro-Islamic. It's not to be trusted. We're being harassed all the time by YouTube. We're being harassed in our phone lines. We're being harassed. Continual harassment about what we do.
Wow.
This is the nature of the... Yes, it's absolutely chaos, playing cat and mouse with all these things. Either the government is doing it, but we know YouTube's doing it. Who's controlling YouTube? Who's telling YouTube to do this to us? Is just very difficult.
And you say this is the nature of what?
This is the nature of the government that we were under now.
Yeah.
In the U.S. This is happening here in the U.S. The freedom of speech, my foot. It's continual harassment of anyone who's trying to show the truth of what goes on, either in Egypt. You look at the Benghazi issue. We were the first to basically show much of the Benghazi was involving Egyptian operatives. They don't want that. I was in Capitol Hill, spoke to Rohrabacher, spent time with congressmen, congresswomen, and showing the truth and bringing issues to the table about what happens in Benghazi. Americans don't understand, really.
Yeah.
Even the man behind the Benghazi attack was American trained. He was trained in the U.S. by the U.S. Air Force, one of the suspects of Benghazi. That's why the operation in Benghazi was so methodical. Those kind of cases existed before. You have the case of Ali Muhammad. Ali Muhammad was an Egyptian operative working for the CIA. And he was the first to make the manual for Al-Qaeda training. Ansar al-Sharia in Egypt were involved in Benghazi. If you remember, when Benghazi came out, what did we hear? We hear that there was a group called Ansar al-Sharia who attacked us in Benghazi.
Yes.
Now, all that was scrubbed from Rice's notes later on. All the emails were wrong, and they kind of tucked the whole thing under the rug. But when you look in the Arabic sources about Ansar al-Sharia, there is a group, Ansar al-Sharia in Egypt, that was involved in Benghazi. There is a guy by the name of Abu al-Azm, who was American trained, who was caught in an operation in Egypt in a Nasr city, and that began to unravel the case for Benghazi, because one of the officers who was killed in that raid by the Egyptian security forces was a Libyan who was suspected for attacks in Benghazi. On June of that year, 2012, 3 months before the attack on 9/11, a bomb detonated at the compound, at the embassy, and that was carried out by Abu al-Azm, an Egyptian operative. You look at what the U.S. is doing regarding Benghazi. They're only charging one Libyan, who's really a small fry. No Egyptian has been charged when many Egyptians were involved.
Wow.
Abdel Kashif. In fact, the very operatives in Benghazi were released through a presidential pardon by Mohammed Morsi. Mohammed Morsi of Egypt. He's a terrorist. So here we are defending a terrorist. Not only he released 300 of these operatives from Egypt, he was the one who gave the okay, the green light, for 3,000 Al-Qaeda operatives in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bosnia, Chechnya, you name it, to come into Egypt. 2,000 of them are in Egypt. Most of them, over 90%, wanted death penalty. They had the death penalty against them. The death penalty was canceled, made null and void. You had even the brother of Ayman al-Zawahiri, Muhammad al-Zawahiri, who was interviewed on 9/11, who with the blind sheikh's son on 9/11 by CNN. All the stuff was forgotten about, and they had said nothing about the movie. They were talking about releasing the blind sheikh. Now, who was the group that detonated that bomb in June on the embassy? Well, it was the brigade of Sheikh Omar Abdul Rahman, the Blind Sheikh Brigade. Hello? Why would they call it the Blind Sheikh Brigade? They wanted the release of the Blind Sheikh. Who were the two main figures in the world that wanted the release of the Blind Sheikh? Who? It was Ayman al-Zawahiri of Al-Qaeda and Muhammad Morsi of Egypt. Muhammad Morsi on record, right before the Benghazi attack, demanded the release of the Blind Sheikh, and right after the attack, demanded the release of the Blind Sheikh. How is it a strategy for a head of state like Muhammad Morsi to ask for a terrorist who attacked our Twin Towers? How does it make? How could you make heads and tails?
I know, man.
Americans died, and you're asking for the release of a blind sheikh. He's involved.
It's mind blowing. According to Reuters, Egypt disgraced former president Hosni Mubarak will be released from jail soon. Is that true?
Yes, there's reports about releasing Hosni Mubarak. There's also reports about banning the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization and confiscating their property. So the Egyptians are, Sisi, who's running the military, is doing the right thing in Egypt. And what are we doing? What is the United States government doing? Even amongst the Republicans like Lindsey Graham and McCain going down there to twist the Sisi's arm and be nice to Muhammad Morsi, be nice to the terrorists. Why are we having a war on terror? And now all of a sudden we equip the terrorists that we're supposed to be fighting. They're running, a mess in Libya, supporting the Free Syrian Army terrorists, Al-Nusra and all these groups which are affiliated also with Ansar al-Sharia and Al-Qaeda. We are aiding and abetting terrorism. In fact, no one can deny the U.S. has been at the forefront of basically recreating the Ottoman Empire, if you will.
Let me ask this because of time. I'm sorry to interrupt. We're running out of time here. How does Obama's stance on the conflict in Egypt compare to the Muslim Brotherhood's stance?
If you look at the head of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, he says we should never allow Islamists to take reign of any country. What does Obama say? Obama said, be nice to Muhammad Morsi. What's that all about? We need to start thinking as Americans. The American people got snookered twice with President Obama. Who made himself some African American, and to get the sympathy of the African American community in the United States. What we need to look at is Obama's relations. Who is his family? Where does he come from? Who are his brothers and sisters? And who is his grandmother? What are they doing? Is it not true that Malik Obama, through Lewis Lerner, got an IRS fraud in which he was announced to have a 501c3 retroactive, and he runs a compound in Kogelo, Africa, Kenya, with polygamy, and then he works with the Sudanese government, who is illegal in the United States. He's a U.S. resident. He works for a major terrorist state, Sudan, the number one terrorist state in the world. Okay, that's his brother. His other brothers, his uncle Saeed Obama runs. I have the photos on my website. You can see them.
Walid,
photos with the Wahhabis.
Tell the folks, we run out of time. We have about a minute left. Tell the folks how to get to your website, and we're also going to do a link from it to it as well. Tell the folks how to get there.
Easy. Shoe, as you spell the word shoe. I'm not going to ask you how to spell potato, okay? Shoe, S-H-O-E, and bat, like a baseball bat. SHOEBAT.com.
Man, what a mess, huh?
Yeah.
Walid, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for updating us, and we'll talk to you soon.
You bet, Brother Peterson. Thank you.
All right, now. 888-7753-773. I'm going to go cover my head up under my bedspread.